The failure will not begin with darkness. It will begin with confusion. Screens will flicker, signals will distort, and for a brief, disorienting moment, the systems you trust will behave as if nothing is wrong. Then, within seconds, entire regions will fall silent. Power grids will collapse not as a single event, but as a cascading sequence of overloads, misfires, and protective shutdowns. This is the true nature of a large-scale electromagnetic pulse event. It does not simply turn things off. It destabilizes the invisible structure that holds modern civilization together, and it does so faster than human response time. At its core, an electromagnetic pulse, whether generated by a high-altitude nuclear detonation or an extreme solar storm, injects a massive burst of energy into electrical systems. This energy couples directly into long conductors like transmission lines, antennas, and even household wiring. The grid is not designed to absorb this kind of sudden, high-intensity surge. Transformers, especially the large, high-voltage units that form the backbone of national power systems, are particularly vulnerable. These are not easily replaceable components. They are custom-built, expensive, and often require months or even years to manufacture and install. When they fail, recovery is not immediate. It is prolonged, uneven, and in many cases, incomplete. The common misunderstanding is that an EMP is simply a larger version of a lightning strike or a power surge. This is dangerously inaccurate. Lightning is localized and brief, and modern infrastructure includes protection systems specifically designed to handle it. An EMP, on the other hand, operates across vast geographic areas simultaneously, and its energy profile is fundamentally different. It contains multiple components, each affecting systems in distinct ways. The fast component, known as E1, can damage microelectronics instantly. The slower components, E2 and E3, mimic lightning and geomagnetic disturbances, but on a scale that overwhelms conventional protections. The result is a layered failure, where both sensitive electronics and heavy infrastructure are compromised at the same time. Hidden within this is a critical scientific reality that is often overlooked. The vulnerability of a system is not determined solely by its complexity, but by its connectivity. The more interconnected a system is, the more pathways exist for induced currents to travel. Modern grids are highly interconnected by design, optimized for efficiency and load balancing. This efficiency comes at the cost of resilience. When an EMP induces current into one part of the system, that energy does not remain isolated. It propagates, seeking paths of least resistance, crossing regions and systems that were never intended to handle such stress. This is why localized protection measures often fail in large-scale events. The threat is not just the initial pulse, but the networked amplification of its effects. Evidence for this is not theoretical. Historical events, such as the geomagnetic storm of 1989 caused by solar activity, led to the collapse of the Hydro-Quebec power grid in Canada within 90 seconds. That event was far less intense than what is possible. It demonstrated how quickly a modern grid can fail when exposed to geomagnetically induced currents. More recent studies and simulations conducted by engineering and defense organizations have repeatedly shown that large portions of national infrastructure could be disabled for extended periods under severe EMP conditions. These are not speculative scenarios. They are based on known physics and observed system behaviors. The survival implications are immediate and severe. Without electricity, water distribution systems fail because pumps stop working. Fuel supply chains collapse because refineries and distribution networks depend on continuous power and digital control systems. Communication networks degrade rapidly as backup power systems are exhausted, typically within hours to days. Even if some devices survive the initial pulse, their functionality becomes irrelevant when the systems they rely on are no longer operational. The modern individual is not just dependent on electricity, but on a complex web of electrically sustained services that cannot function in isolation. As this reality sets in, the situation escalates beyond inconvenience into systemic breakdown. Hospitals, reliant on electronic equipment and supply chains, face critical shortages. Food distribution halts as refrigeration fails and transportation networks stall. Financial systems freeze, eliminating access to digital assets. The initial phase is not chaos, but paralysis. People wait for restoration that does not come. This delay is where the true danger begins, as unprepared populations consume limited resources under the assumption of imminent recovery. Understanding this transition is essential. The grid does not fail and then immediately lead to collapse. There is a window, brief but critical, where informed action can significantly alter outcomes. This is where most people make their first major mistake. They treat the event as temporary, expecting external systems to recover quickly. In reality, large-scale grid restoration is a complex process that requires stable infrastructure, coordinated control, and functional communication networks. If key components are damaged, especially high-voltage transformers, restoration timelines extend dramatically. The next phase is defined by realization. As days pass and power does not return, the focus shifts from waiting to surviving. At this point, the lack of preparation becomes irreversible. Access to clean water, safe food, and reliable information becomes the defining factor between stability and crisis. This is where the hidden science of preparedness becomes critical, not as a collection of generic advice, but as a structured understanding of system dependencies and failure modes. Because the truth is this: surviving an EMP event is not about reacting to the pulse itself. It is about understanding the cascading consequences that follow and preparing for the absence of systems you have relied on your entire life. And as we move deeper into this, the next layer reveals an even more uncomfortable reality. The systems designed to protect you may not function the way you expect when they are needed most.